Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Voices of ASEAN. My name is Beatrice, and here's a question for you. What drives someone to give up a successful career in the corporate sector to set up a nonprofit to help the less fortunate? Now, with me today in our virtual studio is someone who can answer that question, Bryan Greenwood. In 2013, Bryan was a high flyer in the banking industry, armed with a CV which included senior leadership roles in Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, and Providence Savings Bank. He helped make wealthy clients manage and grow their money. Today, Bryan continues with that job, but he also continues to help enrich people and lives. But with a difference here. Through Benjamin 1784, the nonprofit organization he founded and leads, Bryan and his team are helping entrepreneurs in lower income countries get a head start through a unique microfinancing model he calls donation lending, where recipients, now get this is my favorite part, they need not pay it back, but instead they pay it forward. Now, already 378 entrepreneurs have been helped this way, and more are being added to the list. Joining us live from Bangkok, Thailand, here is Bryan Greenwood. Bryan.
Hello, Beatrice. Hello.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again. Okay, Bryan, I'm going to start with something you wrote in your LinkedIn profile, which was so thought-provoking, and I want to quote it here for the audience.
Okay.
In 2013, I felt a void in my commercial banking career. I was doing well, helping wealthy clients, but I wasn't making a real difference. I was succeeding professionally, but failing morally. Can you tell our viewers, what was that moment, that catalyst, which made you come to that conclusion? Because these are really deep, profound words.
Oh, thank you. In 2013, I was 43 years old, right? And I think that all of us at some point of our lives, whether younger or older, we feel like we need to give back.
Yes.
Right? That we need to live beyond ourselves, right?
Yes.
Something that's unselfish, right? And so in 2013, I was working at a bank as a vice president, doing commercial real estate financing. I was comfortable. I just bought my second home, and I was driving my dream car, a Porsche 911, and I had this feeling like an emptiness, like I wasn't doing enough to make the world a better place. And so that's how I came across microfinance, and that's why I got involved in it.
Since that time, when you said you came across, but how did you, how did you come with this idea? You came into microfinancing, but then how did it become Benjamin 1784?
Sure. So in 2013, I was looking for a nonprofit organization to get involved with. And I came across Kiva, which is a nonprofit organization that specializes in microfinancing, helping borrowers all over the world, all kinds of borrowers, but all low income. And I started lending with them. I lent to a gal in the Philippines, right? And then I didn't charge anything, and then she paid me back, and then I just kept repeating it over and over and over and over, right? And then
and what was that called? Kiva, is it?
Yeah, Kiva. They're a very microfinance organization. They really are making a big difference in the microfinance industry, and they help. They've done over $1 billion in financing. And yeah, it's a great organization to be involved with. Right?
So it was together with them that you went forward with this.
Yeah, and I'm still with them, right? They're an intermediary, right? They connect people like me to microfinance institutes all over the world, and then we fund the microfinance institutes, and then they pay us back the money. And so that's how I was working for about 8 years, right? And that's a traditional way of working in microfinance. You fund through a microfinance institute. What I didn't like about microfinance institutes, so it's been kind of a love-hate relationship being in microfinance. I like making a difference. What I dislike is that the majority, like 99% of microfinance institutes are for-profit industries. And so you're lending them 0% interest-free money, but they're taking your money and then they're making a profit off of it, right?
Yeah.
I didn't like it, but I didn't know what else to do. And so during the last year, when we had our first lockdown, COVID lockdown here in Thailand,
yes,
I had the same kind of moment I had in 2013. Like, what else can I do? And I thought, well, why don't I just continue what I'm doing, do more of it, and do it different, do it better?
Yeah.
And that's how we came up with the idea of donation lending, which is unique. Nobody's in the micro industry is working like that.
From that time until now, you have given microloans to needy entrepreneurs in underdeveloped and developing countries. It's amazing how far you've grown.
Thank you.
And in 2020, you moved to Thailand. You founded Benjamin 1784. But I'm just impressed with how fast you've grown. And I want to know how you actually, the whole moving to Thailand and Benjamin 1784, how did all these events come together in a short period of time?
Sure. So 4 years ago, we just, it was a family emergency. I'm married to a Thai woman and her mother passed away. And so we moved out here quickly, unexpectedly, sold everything, quit our jobs. And I just kind of came here without a plan. And
brave.
Yeah. And so, like I mentioned, in the COVID lockdown, I had a lot of extra time on my hands, and I just started, using my brain. I'm a banker, so I think about these kind of things, and I thought, well, how could we cut the cost of microfinance? What do we have to do? And I'm like, well, if we were to give donations instead of loans, but we call them loans. And then when people make repayments, they're actually making a donation, which is simply transferred to another entrepreneur with no fees and no interest. And I'm like, well, if we could do it like that, then we could have a real new microfinance model, right? Yeah. And at that time when I was researching it, the closest thing I could find was something in Islamic finance. I'm not a Muslim myself, but in Islamic finance, they're not allowed to charge interest. So they do something similar, right? They call it like a goodwill loan. But it's tough to find. And obviously that kind of financing isn't available to everybody. And so during my research, I also found a little story of Benjamin Franklin. As you know, he's a historical figure. He's one of the founding fathers of America. Yes. He was a great scientist, discovered electricity.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
He was also an entrepreneur. He worked in the press like you, right? And he made a living out of that. And in 1874, he had a friend that was experiencing temporary poverty, and he found out about it, and he wrote him a letter, and he sent him some money too. And in the
so letter, you're emulating what Benjamin Franklin did.
Yeah. So he sent some money. He said, I'm giving you a loan, but when you repay the loan, I don't want you to pay it back to me. I want you to find somebody else who needs help and give them a loan and give them the same instructions to pay it forward.
And that happened in 1784.
Yes.
And that's how you got your name.
That's how
this is such a great story.
Thank you.
So it has unlocked the mystery, because we were in the office, we were wondering, how did Benjamin 1784 come about? So now the question is answered.
Yeah.
But that's such an amazing story.
Thank you.
You once said, I want to turn microfinance upside down and remove undue burdens placed on the shoulders of the poor. And with donation lending, you do not ask borrowers to pay back the loan, but instead pay it forward. You've explained that. But how do you manage the logistics of it? I mean, what if they don't?
Yeah.
How do you continue with that?
We don't work like with a legal contract. When you get a bank loan, you're signing a document with dozens and dozens of pages of disclosures, and you're signing your life away. If you don't pay back that loan, they're going to take your house, garnish your wages, right? Take you to court. And that's one of the reasons microfinance is so expensive. Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of legal. Banking in general is expensive, right? Banking to the poor is more expensive than regular banking because the loans are so small, right? So it's hard to make a profit when the loan size is so tiny, right? Yeah. And so when we do a loan, a donation loan, we work with no legal contract. We work with a promise, right? So we ask our borrowers to make a pledge, a promise that they'll donate back to us so we can donate to other entrepreneurs just like them.
So they donate back to you and then you give it to some.
Exactly. So we go we're always looking for new people. And when they don't pay us back, there's no legal consequences, but there are 3 other consequences.
Okay.
Number one, they break a moral, it's a moral failure. They break a promise they've made. And I believe there are a lot of people who are honest and their word is important to them, right? And number 2, when they default and fail to pay, the money that they promised to pay will not be available to help someone just like them, right? So, and then number 3, the third consequence of default is if enough borrowers don't pay us back, our organization may fail.
Yes. So it's that, so they feel the moral obligation to do what they promised to do. And
exactly.
And can I ask you, I'm not sure if you can answer this, but have all of your 370, out of your 378 members, can I call them members or how would you define them?
I mean, technically they're borrowers.
Your borrowers, okay.
Even
how many of them have actually paid it forward?
Well, our default rate, we have several lending programs. We have a lending program with Kiva. We have another one with CARE and another one with Novica. And our longest program is with Kiva. Our newest one, the one that we're really trying to push forward, is the donation lending. That's what makes us a little bit different than else. But overall, our default rate is 0.55. So it's less than 1%. And although that's extremely low, it's not unusual for the microfinance industry. The microfinance industry has a default rate of maybe 2.5%. So we're below that curve.
So you're lower than 1%?
Yes.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
That's pretty good. So there's a lot of good people in this world.
Yes, there's definitely a lot of good people, and not just our entrepreneurs that we try to serve, but our volunteers too. We at a bank, you have one of the reasons banking is expensive is you have loan officers, right? And you have branches.
Yeah.
So we rely on people to volunteer, right? And they're not bankers, right? But I hire volunteers that usually upward of 30 years old, right? And have at least 5 years of post-university experience working in any field, right? But they've accomplished something, they know how to get things done. And so I bring them on board and I teach them how to be a loan officer, right? And, you have to learn how to do due diligence, do spreadsheet analysis, right?
Wow.
And figure out cash flow and how much debt a borrower or an entrepreneur can afford with their little business.
And these volunteers, they don't get paid?
They don't get paid, no. And they all have full-time jobs. They're really busy.
Wow.
We have volunteers, half of them have MBAs, another one has a PhD. I'm trying to onboard a gal from the United Nations. She works there as an economist. She works on a macro level. She's interested in working with us on a micro level.
Oh, right? Bryan, you're changing the face of the finance industry.
Thank you.
I'm sure you have received a lot of requests for financing all over the world. How do you decide which cases to highlight?
Well, we don't do it online. That also makes us a little bit different. We're very old school the way we operate. And we have to be because we're working with a promise.
Of course.
So I find volunteers that I can trust, and that they go find people that they can trust, right? And then they make recommendations, and we have a steering committee of donors. There's about 40 of us donors, right? And together we make a decision on whether we want to lend to this person. So we find people through our volunteers.
I see. So how do you get this word out? I mean, this is great, but how do there may be many people who desperately need these loans, and they may never have heard of Benjamin 1784. How do, besides the volunteers, because there's a limited space of how much volunteers can reach out to, how do you get the word out besides using the volunteers?
So yeah, we are a tiny organization. We're really a startup, and as I mentioned to you, you're the first media company that's discovered us, right? So we're just starting to get known.
So people like us will help you.
Yeah, you are helping. This is a big deal for us, right? And, I'm a little bit media shy, but I know this is important for our organization, so I'm meeting with you. I think, at the rate we're going, although we're growing fast, we're still helping hundreds. We'll get to thousands, but the world is big and there's billions, right?
Yes, and don't get me wrong. I think you've done incredibly well. Within 2 years, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 years, you've got 378 people that you're helping through your method. I think it's impressive. It's amazing.
Well, I'm hoping that it'll catch on with much larger institutes, right? I want to show that this can be done. The whole concept of microfinance began in the 70s with a gentleman named Muhammad Yunus. He's known as the
Grameen Bank, right?
Yeah, he's the founder of Grameen Bank, and before Grameen Bank, he was a professor, an economist, and before Grameen Bank, before he founded that, and before he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He was just a professor, and he used to walk to work in Bangladesh, and he was at the slums and all the street vendors, and he was a friendly guy.
Yes,
and got to know people, and he found out that all of these people were borrowing from sharp lenders, right? And he asked, "Why didn't you borrow from a bank?" Right? And they said the banks won't lend to them, and so he went to talk to the banks, right? Why don't you lend to these people? And their answer was, "You can't make money off the poor, and they won't pay us back anyways," right? And so, he started thinking again, and then he went back to the bank, and he said, "Well, how about if I was the guarantor? Would you lend to them?" He's like, "Even if you're the guarantor, there's no money lending to the poor. We're not going to do it." So they didn't, in Bangladesh, compared to Thailand and Malaysia is very, very poor, and it's poor today, and it was very poor back then too, right? And so for $27, he realized he could help like a group of 40 women, right? So he lent 40 women $27 for their business, so they would stop going to the loan shark, and he charged a tiny amount, it was just 3%, right? Something like that. And they all paid him back, right? And he was amazed, like, because the bankers told him they'll never pay you back. And not only did they pay him back, he had a little tiny profit. It wasn't really for profit, but he did charge like a 3%, right? In cost of inflation. And so then he lent it out again and again and again, kind of like what we try to do, right? And what he proved was that the poor people will pay you back, right? And once that was established, he founded Greenwood Bank, with the local bank over there. It was a program, and it became a bank. And then when Greenwood Bank was established, suddenly the microfinance industry was created, right? Everybody jumped in, right? And today it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? And the way the industry works is they charge a lot of money. It's like you and I, when we were as middle-class borrowers, when we go to the bank, we can buy a house and borrow at 2.5%, right? If we have a business without collateral, maybe we can borrow at 8%, right? And these low rates that we have now have been around since the first Great Recession, right? About 10 years, we've had rates close to zero, right? And all that time, for poor people, the rates have never gone down. They've stayed the same, if even gone up, right? So I'm not talking about loan sharks, but banks themselves are charging 26, 30, 50, 80%, right?
I always thought too much.
It is too much.
It's too much.
So I'm hoping that our little organization, even as we help hundreds, maybe thousands, will get noticed by much larger organizations, and they'll start imitating what we're doing, right? Our business model could easily complement, banks today, they all have what they call a CSR, ESG
Yes.
responsibility, which is corporate social responsibilities,
Yep.
right? And environment,
Social and governance.
sustainability. Exactly, right? So it's something that shareholders are demanding today,
Yeah.
that their companies do more than just make a profit, but that they give back to the community and they don't pollute the earth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So public companies all over the world are making a push for this, right? And so they're looking for opportunities, and this could be one of them, right?
Yeah.
And it blends in perfectly because they're already bankers. They already know how to do lending, right? So maybe 1 out of 20 loans that they do could be a donation loan, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
different, separate program.
Yes.
And when that starts to happening, then we'll have truly made a difference.
We'll have?
Then we'll have truly made a difference.
Yes, you would. You already are. I think you already have. These are your steps. You're already done. You're just moving towards it. I'm so happy to have you on our show. These are the kind of things more people should talk about.
Yeah. And, but they are, people, when I started this organization, I just talked to my dad and, my friends and family, right? And then a few bankers started supporting us too. And then, next thing you know, it was strangers, right? So half of the people that donate to our organization are strangers that I've never met. They're friends now, but they were just people, looking for something good to do.
How do you get, what is your definition of a donor? How much do they have to park to be able to support the people that they're microfinancing? Where do they come from? Are they corporates? Are they average man?
They're just regular people. We haven't had any large corporate donors or any foundational funding yet. So when I say we have 40 donors, they're 40 individuals, right? And most of them will donate maybe $5 a month, right? And then one of our board advisors, he donates $300 a month. And I've been actively donating for a long time too. So I'm new to the nonprofit world, right? And I'm new to fundraising too. So I'm learning as I go. And one of the things we need to do better is to get foundational grants and things like that. But we're just not there yet. We're just,
we'll get there.
We're just learning.
You'll get there. Bryan, a lot of the entrepreneurs who receive financing from Benjamin 1784 are women. And I was reading somewhere that 74% of microfinancing recipients worldwide are women. But what is it about women that make them ideal recipients? And I looked at all your collaterals. They're all women.
Yeah, we don't discriminate. We tend to lend to women. I like lending personally. I like lending to women because I have a mother, I have a sister, I have a daughter, right? And I feel like women are the better gender, right? They make great entrepreneurs, right? They're very detail-oriented, very driven, right? All the things that you need to be an entrepreneur, I think, are kind of natural for women. In microfinance, it's a different type of entrepreneur, right? For example, if you're a media expert. I'm a banker by profession, right? Maybe you've always dreamed of owning your own business, right? And so you're like, oh, my dream, I'm going to open up an Indian restaurant in Kuala Lumpur, right? And it's going to be so successful, right? And so you might quit your job, as a CEO of a media company and start that because it's always been your dream, right? And suppose you did do that, right? You sign a lease agreement, you hire restaurant workers, right? And you open your doors, you spend a bunch of money on furniture and fixtures, and then 3 months later, you have no customers.
Yeah.
Right? No customers. So, after a while, you're like, okay, I need to close the shop and I need to go back to what I was doing, what I know how to do, right? You have a plan B, right? So a lot of the people that we work with, there is no plan B. They're not entrepreneurs because they had this vision, right? This dream of owning their own business. They're entrepreneurs because there's no other choice.
No choice.
Maybe they're discriminated against, right? It could be discrimination of gender, age, right? Race, refugee status. It could be a whole bunch of things. reasons why they are entrepreneurs working for themselves, right? And so when I think of women entrepreneurs, like street vendors and informal workers, really that's their income, right? So providing for their families, right? They're not trying to become the next Bill Gates. They're just trying to make a living to put food on the table for their kids.
Exactly.
And, women never give up on those kind of things. You can't,
We don't.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I think that probably is the reason why so many micro entrepreneurs happen to be women.
I totally agree with you. I just had to have you say it for the audience.
Sure.
Out of the 378 people that Benjamin 1784 has provided financing for so far, tell me some of your most memorable cases, things that touched your heart and made you smile and say, it's all worth it.
Yeah, sure. Probably the most memorable was the first one I did. Was to a lady named Marilyn, a 33-year-old woman in the Philippines, right? And, I'd never done it before. I was curious about what would happen if she would pay me back, if it would make a difference, right?
So how much is normally a loan, a microfinancing loan? How much is the value, roughly?
So it's small, right? The industry app is about $1,700 US, right?
Okay.
And that is a large amount for micro entrepreneurs.
Yes.
That's just the average. A lot of people are just looking for $100, right? And then it depends on the country too. Like where you're at, $100 wouldn't make much of a difference for anybody, right? Nor in Thailand, right? But in Cambodia, in Myanmar, like $100 would be a big deal, right? And in Africa too, right? So 1,700.
That's about the average, yeah? Bryan? Oh, he's back. He's back.
I'm sorry. There was some.
I think that's 2, 1. All right. Hi, Bryan. You're back.
Hi, sorry about that.
You gave me a little heart attack there. So sorry. Where were we? We were talking.
We're in the wet season over here. When there's a lot of rain in Thailand.
It happens. At least we have this, and I can interview you and you're in Thailand and I'm here in Malaysia. We don't have to be sitting together in the same studio. So I'll give exceptions to this little lag. Okay, where were we? We were at an average amount of microfinancing would be about 1,700 USD. Yes. And you were telling us a story about Marilyn.
Yeah, she was my first entrepreneur, the first person I helped. I was very excited to do it. And like I said, this was kind of like the answer to, this feeling that I had, wanting to do something. And I never forgot about her. And then, when she paid me back, she was like the spark of a chain of events, right? So everything she gave me back, I gave to somebody else and just kept doing it over and over. So she was kind of like at the top of this pyramid.
Yeah, that must have felt so good.
It did. And another memorable one was a gal in Colombia. Her name was Juliana, and is memorable to me because it was our first donation loan with a volunteer, right? And so this gentleman, he's like in his early 30s, our volunteer. And he has a full-time job. He's a busy guy, and so we brought him on board, and he goes through a 3-month training period, like a practice period. And not only is he donating his time to us, and his name is David Arias, right? Not only does he donate his time, but he also donates his money, right? So all of our volunteers also donate money.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And so when one of our we call our volunteers board advisors, right? And all of our advisors in the field together, they come. Yeah. Yes, okay. We call them board advisors. So so he recommended somebody to us, this gal Juliana, and he was so excited. He sent us a picture, and then we sent her the money, and it was difficult to send her the money. Like we're trying to send it to them directly, right? Not through our advisor or some third party, but directly into them, right? And we tried a couple of avenues, and then we send it through PayPal, and the banks in Colombia would not allow her to transfer her balance from PayPal. It was $500, right?
Wow.
And we were all frustrated. And I asked her, I go, can you please send it back to us? Send back that 500, and I'll wire it to you directly into your bank account, right? And so I can imagine. So she had all this money, and she just sent it back, right? And then we sent it again to her, right? And so when we did lend to her, our board advisor David, he was also funding her. Right. So it's not just us. So all of our board advisors, all of our advisors in the field have invested financial interest in everybody that they recommend. Right. And so, yeah, it was a great feeling.
There's a comment here. Someone just said, just dropping a line to say kudos to Bryan and his team for their excellent work. So thank you, Zayas Watson. I just thought I had to read this out to you.
Thank you. Yes.
So, yeah, I'll move on to the next question then. What can someone do if they want to become a donor or volunteer or offer any sort of help to Benjamin 1784? Sure.
It's easy to become a donor. You just go on our website, benjamin1784.com/donate, right? Right there on the front page, there's a big button at the top that says donate. If you want to do more than that, then just give money. If you want to volunteer, we've designed our organization so that every single donor can also volunteer.
So what does a volunteer have to do? What would be like a job scope for the volunteer?
Yeah, we're so small and we're so flexible, right? So we have our board advisors who are volunteers, right? That's probably the most difficult volunteer job, right? Because they have to go talk to strangers every day and get to know them, and they have to get their trust, and they have to share what their financials and if they need help, right? So so to volunteer as a board advisor, we're looking for people that have a college degree and over 30 years old, typically. Right? Someone that can work independently and wants to do some good, and they also need to work in our lending footprint. So they need to live abroad, right? In a low to middle income country. So our board advisor position is not for Europeans or Americans, right? But it is for everybody else that's working outside of that area. And then our steering committee is global. Anybody, you can be American, you can be a European, you could be somebody living in Saudi Arabia, right? In a wealthy country. But the steering committee is the decision-making body of our lending programs, right? So when we want to lend to somebody, we have a meeting every Thursday. It's my Friday morning, it's California Thursday night. And I make a presentation of people that I would like us to lend to, people that have been recommended by our advisors and people that I've found too. And I spend about 30 minutes just presenting them. And then the donors who are in the steering committee make a decision whether they want to fund. And
I see.
We take a vote, yes or no.
I see. That's how it works. So you don't have to have your recipient putting a business plan and all that. So we just put the case.
Okay. No, the donors, the entrepreneurs, they don't have to do any spreadsheet analysis or anything like that. That's what our advisors do, right? But yeah, they keep it very informal. They're never going to bring their computer and a spreadsheet in front of their entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's just something they do back home. So
Yeah.
when they're talking, they might be writing on a pen or something, right? But when they talk to us, it becomes a formal presentation, right?
Yeah.
So that is a volunteer position, the steering committee, and it's open to all of our donors. And it doesn't matter how much you donate. If you're donating $5 a month or you're donating, a large amount, you're welcome to participate.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a lot of donors after this.
I hope so.
So thank you so much, Bryan. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience?
No, I just want to say how much I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you so much for noticing, for finding us and giving us this opportunity to share our voice and our work. And I look forward to staying in touch with you. It's
our pleasure, Bryan. It's an honor to be a part of your journey. And I can't wait to see you grow. And I can't wait to see the number of entrepreneurs grow and become so successful. It's a great journey. It's a great journey that you started. And rest assured, we're going to be there helping you along the way.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Bryan.
Right. Take care.
Join us next Friday, 15th October 2021 at 11 a.m. Malaysian time for an interview with Credence Dongre on beating the property debt trap. Voice of ASEAN thanks you for your time, and we will be uploading a recorded version of this dialogue in our portal for those who missed it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.